What's up, guitar players? My name's Guthrie with Easy Guitar Practice, and today I'm going to show you my favorite Stevie Ray Vaughan bending technique, how you can execute it, and then how you can refine it and really bring it into your own playing, and I'm going to do my best to keep it under 5 minutes. All right, so grab your guitar, let's jump in, and you can also download a companion PDF for free in the description using the link at the bottom of the description. And with that, let's now jump in. All right, so the actual technique itself is, a rip from Albert King. However, I do think Stevie Ray Vaughan refined it and really accentuated it in a bunch of his songs. It's definitely used a ton in Texas Flood, but there's a lot of other songs, Sky is Crying, he's hammering it. He does it in a really cool way in Mary Had a Little Lamb. Anyways, it's everywhere in his playing. And of course, Albert King played his guitar upside down, so it's going to be a little bit different as far as technique is concerned. But I did want to give Albert King due credit for this phrasing. But I do think Stevie Ray Vaughan refined it and of course presented it in his own way. So anyways, let me just give you a little example. All right, so I just put it into context, but the actual bending technique we're going to cover was that high E kind of double bend. All right, let's just call it that for now. All right, a little bit of a double bend up there. And I want to clarify, I'm using a really clean tone. It's not a very Stevie Ray Vaughan-esque tone. And that's just because you can really hear your blemishes, right? If it's a little bit more clean, the setting on your amp is a little more clean, you can hear your blemishes and it allows you to refine in a much more valuable, meaningful way. Now, once you get it down and you think it sounds pretty darn good, that's where you can bring in elements that help you to sound even more like Stevie Ray Vaughan beyond the technique. And there's a bunch of videos on YouTube that already have a bunch of gearheads who are showing you how to make things sound a little bit more like Stevie Ray Vaughan. So I won't waste your time here with that. Go check those out. This is all about the technique, but I did want to clarify why things are a little bit clean. So don't come for me in the comments. Be like, that doesn't really sound like a Stevie Ray Vaughan tone. We're just going over the technique, okay? So it's this high E double bend, and we're in the key of B minor. So if you think about that traditional B minor shape, I'll flash it on the screen somewhere. We've got this little extension shape. Right, these 5 notes. We're bending from the 12th fret on the high E. We're bending it a whole step to the 14th fret. That's a little bit too big of a bend. That's a little bit more accurate. Sorry for the little error there. Now, once we get that whole step bend, we're going to go to the middle finger, right? So we're bending with the ring finger. Once we get to the apex and we're about to come down, we switch to the middle finger. So it's this quick switch from, and I'm just putting those last 2 notes for a little context, ring finger, middle finger, down. All right, we want to be supporting our ring finger with middle and index to really make sure we have the strength to make it a clean and good sounding bend. We don't want anything weak or lingering on a slow, rise up. We want it to be fast. And then we want to support our middle finger with our index finger. Right, so we're supporting our other fingers to make sure that the bend sounds really powerful and clean and precise. All right, so that it's going to be too difficult if you're not supporting. Now, I'm also using this phrase higher up on the neck so that you can, it's a little easier, right? The higher up we go, the easier it is. The lower we go, the harder it is. So you can, of course, mess around with this lower on the neck. I'm showing you up here so that it can be a little bit easier to begin with. But that's really the technique. And like I said, you're going to hear some blemishes. You're going to hear some other, notes ring out. Or you're going to make some mistakes. I still make mistakes all the freaking time. You want to refine it so that when you are out there playing with friends, maybe you're just in a jam, or maybe you are at a gig, you want to be able to, have things as close to perfect as possible, so that when you make a mistake, it's not egregious, or you already have a setting on there that can kind of cover things up. Okay, there's the technique, and here's a practice exercise that you can use to refine the technique and really, bake it into your system and make it a part of your own playing. And I will say it's a very repetitive exercise. And it, obviously that bend is shrill, it's on the high E. So if you have a roommate, a spouse, a significant other, Grammy, Grampy, mom, dad, uncle, auntie, whoever living with you under the same roof, you may want to plug in some headphones for this, or you may want to just confirm that no one is around and is going to get too annoyed with this, all right? But here is the exercise. Restart. 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 You can play that with a metronome, all right? You can play that with a B blues backing track if you wanted to keep it even more in rhythm, but I think it is helpful to put it into some sort of rhythmic context so that it sounds good when you are playing in the jam, you are playing it out in the world, you understand it in a rhythmic context. And recognize, right, there were plenty of blemishes on the examples I just showed you. That's part of the deal. Play it a little slower, right? If I was really gonna, take a 5-minute chunk of time to refine this, play it a little bit slower, pause in between reps, give yourself a few beats to collect yourself. What did I need to refine? What do I need to adjust maybe about my right hand to help mute some of those strings after I hit things? Be methodical with your approach, but I do think, 3 to 5 minutes, set a timer, practice that exercise, and you'll be in a really good place as far as refining this technique. You will need days, weeks, months, depending on where you're at right now to refine it, but that's a nice exercise. And you can also just isolate it and not use the exercise and just work on that transition from middle ring to middle. Did that sound okay? Did it sound accurate? Did it sound like 12 to 14, 11 to 13? I don't think I said that, but it's also a whole step bend from 11 to 13 when we move to the middle finger. Anyways, I'll put the PDF, like I said, it's downloadable free. You don't need to give me a whole bunch of info, just download it in the description. It's a simple Google Drive link, and I think you'll be in a good place. If you do have questions, of course, throw them in the comment section. Like and subscribe if you found it helpful. And yeah, I'll keep things there. I can beat this to death as far as a great bending concept. But if you are confused about how to approach things, or I didn't cover something, or I went too fast, just let me know in the comments, and we'll address it there. Okay. Peace, happy playing to you all.